Welcome to the Fate Spun channel, a place where every story will make you feel, wonder, and hold your breath. Are you ready? Then go ahead. Story number 1. The day the clock froze. I've always been a skeptic when it comes to glitches in the Matrix. Stories of repeating numbers, deja vu moments, or mysterious strangers don't faze me. That is, until last Thursday. Now, I can't stop questioning everything. It started with something mundane. My alarm clock. I woke up as usual at 7 a.m. I remember groggily smacking the snooze button and lying back down. When I glanced at it again, it still read 7 a.m. Thinking I'd fallen back asleep for just a second, I didn't pay much attention. But after getting up and starting my day, the weirdness began to unfold. My phone also said 7 a.m. The microwave, the oven clock, even my laptop, all were frozen on the same time. No notifications came through, no emails, no text messages. Just the eerily persistent number, 7-0. I tried rebooting my phone, thinking it might be some kind of software glitch. Nothing changed. My Wi-Fi was working fine. I could browse websites and even play videos. But every clock remained stuck. A strange unease crept in as I realized that the shadows outside weren't shifting. The sun was in the same spot it had been when I first woke up. Deciding to escape the house and clear my head, I grabbed my keys and stepped outside. That's when I saw it. A man was standing in the middle of the street, motionless. Not frozen like he was standing still, but like a mannequin mid-pose. His arm was outstretched, pointing to a car that hadn't moved either. The leaves on a nearby tree weren't rustling, despite a faint breeze I could feel on my skin. Panic set in. I ran back inside and turned on the news, hoping for an explanation. The TV came to life, but the anchor was just staring. Her mouth was slightly open, as if caught mid-sentence, and her eyes were wide but unblinking. I grabbed my phone and tried calling my mom. The call wouldn't go through, it just rang endlessly. That's when I noticed the notification bar. The time had updated. It now read 7:01 a.m. Suddenly, the world seemed to jolt. I felt it, like the floor beneath me had shifted slightly. Outside, the man in the street moved, scratching his head and walking away as if nothing had happened. The tree swayed, the car drove off, and the shadows outside began creeping across the ground again. It was as though the entire world had lagged, and then caught up in a single, seamless moment. I don't know what happened that morning, and I'm too scared to talk about it with anyone. But every time I look at the clock now, a chill runs down my spine. What if it freezes again? And what if next time it doesn't start back up? Story number 2. The man who shouldn't exist. Last week, my world cracked open in the most terrifying way. I've always considered myself a rational person, someone who believes there's an explanation for everything. But now I'm not so sure. It started on my usual bus ride home from work. I always take the 5:45 p.m. bus, sit near the middle, and zone out with my headphones on. The route is predictable. Past the park, a few residential streets, and then my stop. But last Thursday, something impossible happened. As the bus rolled past the park, I noticed a man sitting on one of the benches. He wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary, just reading a newspaper. What caught my attention, though, was his face. He looked exactly like my late grandfather. The same square jaw, deep-set eyes, and even the way he tilted his head while reading. My grandfather passed away 12 years ago. I shook it off. Maybe it was just someone who looked like him. But then it got weirder. At the next stop, a man got on the bus. It was him, the man from the park. He folded his newspaper neatly, tucked it under his arm, and took the seat directly across from me. My heart started racing. I couldn't stop staring. He didn't acknowledge me, didn't look my way, but the resemblance was uncanny. Even the mole on his cheek was in the exact same spot. "Excuse me," I finally managed to say. "You look a lot like someone I used to know." He looked up from his paper, smiled faintly, and said, "Maybe you still do." The bus hit a bump, jolting me forward, and when I looked back, he was gone. His seat was empty. I frantically scanned the bus, but there was no sign of him. The driver hadn't stopped, and no one else seemed to notice anything unusual. When I got home, I dug out an old photo of my grandfather, one I hadn't looked at in years. My hands were shaking as I stared at it. The man on the bus wasn't just similar to him, he was him. Same clothes, same expression, even the same newspaper from the day he died, 12 years ago. I haven't told anyone about this, and I'm not sure I ever will. Every time I get on the bus now, I can't help but wonder, was it really him? And if it was, what did he mean by, maybe you still do? Story number 3, The Forgotten Door. I moved into my current apartment about 3 months ago. It's an old building with creaky floors and high ceilings, the kind of place that feels like it has a story of its own. The layout is pretty straightforward: living room, kitchen, bedroom, and bathroom. But last night I discovered something that shouldn't exist. It was late, and I was doing some tidying up. I was vacuuming the hallway when I accidentally bumped into the wall at the end of it. That's when I heard it. A hollow sound, like there was a space behind the wall. I stopped the vacuum and pressed my ear against the plaster. Definitely hollow. Curiosity got the better of me, so I started knocking along the wall, trying to figure out what was going on. About midway up, my knuckles hit something metallic. I stepped back and stared at the wall. There was no sign of anything out of the ordinary, just smooth, painted plaster. But then I noticed a tiny seam running vertically along the wall, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. I traced it with my fingers and realized it outlined a door. I don't know what possessed me, but I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and started scraping away at the paint. It took about an hour, but eventually I uncovered a doorknob. It was old and rusted, and it didn't turn when I tried it. That's when I noticed a keyhole. I didn't have a key, of course, so I improvised with a bobby pin. It took a while, but finally, I heard a faint click. My heart was pounding as I turned the knob and pulled the door open. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading down. It smelled damp, like earth and mildew. The odd thing was, this apartment is on the 2nd floor. There shouldn't have been a staircase leading anywhere, let alone down. I grabbed my phone for light and took a cautious step. The stairs creaked under my weight, but they held. I descended slowly, counting the steps as I went. 10, 20, 30. It felt like they were never going to end. Finally, I reached the bottom, where the staircase opened into a small, windowless room. The walls were lined with shelves, and on those shelves were dozens of dusty objects: photographs, books, trinkets, and even old toys. I picked up one of the photographs and froze. It was a picture of me, sitting on my couch in my living room. But the photo was dated a month before I'd even moved in. I didn't stay to look at anything else. I bolted back up the stairs, slammed the door shut, and pushed my couch in front of it. This morning I went to check the door again, just to make sure it was real. But the seam was gone, the plaster smooth and unbroken. There's no sign a door was ever there. I haven't slept, and I don't think I'll ever feel safe in this apartment again. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to leave a comment. See you in the next video. Good luck!